going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I want to talk about these two records right here. This is Betty Ford Boys, Leaders of the Brew School, released on Melting Pot Music on August 30th, 2013, and the Re-Tox, released on November 28th, 2014, also on Melting Pot Music. With both of these albums coming up on their 10th anniversary, as well as Betty Ford Boys member Suff Daddy releasing his brand new album, which, if you want to know my thoughts and opinions on, you can go check out my review for it over here. Now felt like as good a time as any to talk about what I think are not only two of the best instrumental hip-hop records of the last 10 years, as well as them being two of my personal favorite instrumental hip-hop records. And today, I want to let you know why, if you've never listened to these guys before, why you should definitely check them out. So with all that being said, yeah, let's talk about these guys. So for those of you who may not know, Betty Ford Boys is made up of three beat makers slash hip-hop producers: David Borman, aka Suff Daddy, Felix aka Dexter, and Branko Jordanovic, aka Brank Sinatra. Before teaming up, all three were respected producers, with them all releasing a wide range of solo projects and collaborations with MCs and vocalists. But it would take them all releasing projects for the Cologne-based hip-hop label Melting Pot Music's 7-volume instrumental hip-hop album series called Hi-Hat Club, and an ill-fated event called Beat Barbecue. That was the first time that the three had played together, for the three to join forces and create Betty Ford Boys, a celebration of everything the trio loved: hip-hop, alcohol, and illicit substances. In 2013, they would release the fruits of their collaborative efforts with their debut, Leaders of the Brew School, a brilliant, one-of-a-kind mix of all things hip-hop that showed off their collective talents for synths, drums, sample chops, melodies, and more. For the follow-up the following year, in 2014, the Re-Tox took out some of the sampling, but not by much, and made everything that much harder and darker, complete with neck-destroying drums and darker, more menacing synths. Sadly, this would be the last time that the supergroup of Germany and Austria-based producers would release a full length, with the group seemingly being all but dissolved, except for a tour-only 10-inch in 2016, and all of them splintering off to do their own thing, with Suff Daddy moving on to work with Jakarta Records, Brank Sinatra, and Dexter moving on to do more work with MCs, as well as releasing their own instrumental projects. But even more sadly still, these albums remain relatively under-celebrated, getting very little press outside of a few hip-hop publications like OK Player, and not much else. So I kind of feel like it's my duty to talk about why, if you've never heard these two records before, that they are two of the finest instrumental hip-hop projects of all time. And like I said in that little bio, what makes these albums so great is they do an excellent job of paying homage to all of their influences, but also putting their own spin on things at the same time. It's so obvious that they were influenced by the likes of Dr. Dre's signature use of those very high-pitched synths, as well as Madlib's love of sub-bass, Dilla's use of swinging drums, so on and so forth. The golden age DNA of hip-hop is embedded very deep in these two records, but they don't wallow in it. They're not just content to regurgitate the sounds of old, and I think, albeit it's really hard to sort of point out on both of these records what the three contribute individually, when they come together, their work sounds like nothing else out there. And I would say that they are collectively some of the most interesting, exciting, creative, superlative beat makers out there. Whether they're playing around with more Dilla-style swinging drums, or they're taking on more of a trap sort of sound, whether they're doing something that's more of like a straight-ahead break sort of thing, it doesn't matter. On every single track on these two albums, save one song on Leaders of the Brew School called Hero Heroine, every track on both of these records are are inspired, brilliant, layered, and just such a musical joy that even nearly 10 years down the line, I'm still going back to these records and finding something new to enjoy about them. Whether it's through their clever use of PSA samples, the way that they chop samples, some of the bass lines on here, some of the melodies on here, the drum chops, everything. There's just so many great moments on here. And preference-wise, what I love about these two albums, while again, the DNA is very, very similar on both of these records, they are still distinct from each other. The Re-Tox, which is probably one of the most played records of the two in DJ sets and live streams, is probably better known as being the harder, more menacing, darker of the two records. And in a lot of instances, I love the energy that comes across on this. There's just such a great vibe on all the tracks on here. And with Leaders of the Brew School, I just love the way that this project flows together. It does not come across as a collection of beats, but rather as a full-on listening experience with the way that it seamlessly moves from one track to another. While they are superficially very similar to each other, there's elements about both records that are distinctive so that it's very easy to tell which record you're listening to. And even with some of the previously discussed solo work, the stuff on here is actually very distinctive from a lot of the work that they've done individually. So if you find yourself after listening to these two wanting to get more of the sound that they're presenting on this record, there's a whole slew of stuff out there, whether you're talking about the multitude of releases that Suff Daddy's put out there, some of the early work of Frank Sinatra, the work that he did with MC8, Dexter with his absolutely fantastic psychedelic sample-infused album, The Trip. There's so much more work that you can listen to, and while I do enjoy a lot of those solo albums that I highly recommend, this is really Suff Daddy, Frank Sinatra, and Dexter at their very finest, and I cannot recommend these albums enough. So at the end of the day, if you've never heard these two guys and you just want some really inspirational, super dope instrumental hip-hop, I cannot recommend these albums enough. I do not know their availability or how hard they are to get these days, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. I wholeheartedly recommend that you track them down, get them any way you can, and other than that, I really don't know what else to say other than, yeah, make sure you pick up these two pieces of art right here, and that's all I'm gonna say. So that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've listened to these two records for yourself, please let me know what you thought about them down in the comments. If you want to hear these two albums for yourself, please head over to my WordPress blog, because that's where I post music links to any of the albums that I talk about on this channel, and make sure you head over to my Twitch channel, Raw Select Music Sean, for Live from the Record Room. There I play records like the ones that I talk about on this channel, as well as a whole host of other records in my collection that I don't get a chance to talk about here. Links to everything, as always, down in the description. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!